The English world drinks plain water and wonders why their joints still ache, their energy disappears by noon, and their legs feel like they belong to someone twice their age. I've been watching that happen for decades from right here on my porch. People do everything they're supposed to. They drink their 8 glasses, they take their vitamins, and still something feels wrong, like the body is quietly running out of something it used to have plenty of. Here where I live, we've never had that conversation, not because we're special, not because God gave us different bodies, but because of what we put in the water. I want to tell you about it today, not as something I read in a book, but as something I've done every morning of my life, the same way my father did and his mother before him. And if you stay with me until the end, I'll tell you exactly what it is, why we do it, and how you can do it too, right where you are, with almost no cost and no fuss. But first, I need you to understand what plain water actually does to a body past 60, because once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. There's a thing that happens after 60 that the modern world tells you is just aging. The doctors call it this or that. They write a prescription and send you home. Here where I live, we don't name it the same way, we just notice it. The body gets dry inside, not just thirsty, dry. The joints stop gliding the way they used to. The skin thins out. The mind gets foggy in the afternoon. The gut slows down. And in the morning, you wake up stiff in places that didn't used to be stiff. My grandmother noticed that in her neighbors who left for the city when she was young. She used to say, with a kind of quiet sadness, that those folks started looking old before their time. And she wasn't being hard on them, she was observing something real. Because here's what most people never consider. Water alone, past a certain age, isn't enough. Your body at 65 isn't the same as your body at 35. The cells don't hold water the same way. The gut absorbs things differently. The minerals your body burns through in a day, minerals that used to come easy from the food you ate, now slip away faster than you can replace them. And plain water by itself moves straight through without carrying much with it. We were never taught to just drink plain water and call it done. That's not stubbornness or tradition for tradition's sake. It's the kind of knowledge that gets passed down because it works. And the generation before us watched the generation before them live strong and sharp and upright well into their 80s and 90s, and they paid attention. My grandfather lived to 96. He never had a knee replacement, never needed a walker, woke up every morning and did his work. Not because he was lucky, because he was consistent. And one of the things he was most consistent about was this: he never drank plain water in the morning. Ever. Not once in his adult life that I can remember. Now, before I tell you what he added, I want to show you something that happened in our community about 15 years ago, because it'll make the whole thing make a lot more sense. We had a stretch of dry summers, harder than usual, and there was a woman in our community, I won't use her real name, I'll call her Ruth, who was in her mid-70s at the time, strong woman, had worked a garden her whole life, sharp as a tack. But that summer, something shifted. She started getting cramps in her legs at night. Her hands started swelling in the afternoons. She was tired in a way that sleep didn't fix. The English world would have sent her to 3 different specialists. She would have come home with 3 different bottles of pills. Instead, her sister-in-law, a woman of 81 who moved like a woman of 50, came over one morning, looked at what Ruth was drinking throughout the day, and said 2 words: plain water. That was the problem. Ruth had switched to plain water only because someone in a magazine had told her it was the cleanest, purest thing she could drink. And they weren't wrong exactly, but they weren't all the way right either. What Ruth had given up without knowing it was everything her body needed to actually use that water: the minerals, the slow-released energy, the quiet chemistry that keeps a body running at 60, 70, 80 without grinding itself down. And here's the part that matters. Within 3 weeks of changing what went into her water, the cramps were gone, the swelling was gone. She was sleeping through the night for the first time in months. Her daughter told me about it years later, still shaking her head at how simple it was. Now, Before I tell you exactly what we add, I need you to understand one more thing, because this is the part that separates people who get lasting results from those who try something for a week and give up. And I don't want that to be you. The reason this works isn't magic. It's not a miracle. It's chemistry that your great-grandmother would have recognized without needing a single explanation. When your body ages, it loses its grip on certain key minerals faster than it takes them in. Magnesium, potassium, sodium in the right form, not the kind poured over processed food, but the kind that actually speaks to your cells. These minerals are what tell your muscles to relax instead of cramp. What tell your joints to stay cushioned instead of grinding. What tell your gut to move food through instead of locking up for days. What tell your brain to stay clear in the afternoon instead of sinking into that fog. Plain water hydrates, but it doesn't restore. There's a difference. And after 60, that difference starts to show up in your knees and your sleep and the color of your mood by 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The English world figured this out too, slowly. Sports drinks, electrolyte powders, mineral drops, the shelves are full of them now. But most of them come wrapped in sugar and artificial color and ingredients you'd need a chemistry degree to pronounce. We've been doing the same thing for generations with things that come out of the ground or off the shelf in their plainest form, nothing added, nothing stripped away. If you've found something in what I'm sharing, I hope you'll stay with the channel, because this is what we do here. Share what was never written down but always lived. That subscribe button is right there, and I'd be grateful for your company. Now, let me tell you what we actually add. The first thing is raw apple cider vinegar. Just a small amount, a teaspoon, maybe two, stirred into a full glass of warm water. Not cold, warm, because a cold drink first thing in the morning is a shock to a body that's been resting, and we never saw the sense in that. My mother did this every morning without exception. She called it her morning bitters, said her own grandmother taught her it was what kept the stomach honest and the blood moving clean. What it does is this: it helps your body pull minerals out of the food you eat throughout the day. It settles the gut before it has to do a full day's work. It keeps the acid balance in your stomach at the level where digestion actually functions instead of slugging along. People in the English world spend enormous amounts of money on digestive pills and gut supplements and acid-reducing medications. My mother never bought any of those things. She bought one bottle of apple cider vinegar at a time and used it until it was gone. Now, the second thing, and this is the one most people overlook, is a small pinch of pure mineral salt. Not table salt, which is stripped of almost everything useful, but something like pink salt from the earth, or sea salt that hasn't been bleached and processed down to nothing, just a pinch, barely visible, stirred in with the vinegar and the warm water. Here's why this matters so much after 60. Your body loses sodium every single time it breathes hard, sweats, or does anything at all that gets the heart moving. And when sodium drops too low, your cells literally can't hold water inside them. You can drink all day and still be dehydrated at the cellular level. The English world calls that chronic dehydration and wonders why it's so common in people over 60. We never had that problem to wonder about. That pinch of mineral salt is what makes the water stick, what makes it feed the cells instead of just passing through. My father explained it to me when I was maybe 12 years old, standing at the kitchen pump, and he said, "Son, water without minerals is like rain on dry concrete. It runs off. Water with minerals is like rain on good soil. It goes in." I've never heard it said better than that. The third thing, and this one will surprise you, is raw honey. Not the squeezable kind in the plastic bear that's been heated and filtered until there's almost nothing left of it. Real honey, the dark, thick, slightly grainy kind that comes from someone who keeps bees and doesn't pasteurize the life out of it. Just a small spoonful, stirred in last, after the vinegar and the salt. This is the slow fuel. This is what keeps your energy even from morning into the afternoon, instead of spiking and crashing the way it does when you eat something sweet and processed for breakfast. Real honey in small amounts is one of the oldest foods humans ever used as medicine. Every community that ever kept bees discovered it. Ours is no different. We didn't invent it. We just never stopped doing it. My grandfather used to say that a man who eats real honey every day borrows a little bit of the energy from every flower those bees ever visited. He was being poetic, but the steadiness it gives you by mid-morning is real. Ruth was using fake honey before her sister-in-law visited. That matters. Put these three things together: warm water, a teaspoon of raw apple cider vinegar, a small pinch of mineral salt, and a spoonful of real dark honey. That's it. That's the whole thing. Drink it first thing in the morning before you eat anything, and then drink your regular water throughout the day. This isn't a replacement for water. It's a preparation for your body to actually use the water that comes after. We don't have a name for it beyond morning water. It's just what we drink. The English world would probably put it in a bottle and sell it for $12 with a label covered in words like advanced hydration formula. We just make it in the kitchen before the sun comes all the way up. Now, I want to be honest with you, the way I would be with any neighbor who came to me asking, I'm not a doctor. I'm an old man who has watched his family and his community live long, useful, largely pain-free lives, doing things a certain way. This is our way. It isn't medical advice. If you have a health condition, if you take medication, if you've been told by your doctor to watch your sodium or your sugar, then you talk to that doctor before you change anything. I mean that sincerely. What I'm sharing is a habit, not a prescription. Your body is your own, and you know it better than I do. What I can tell you is this: the cramps, the fog, the stiffness, the exhaustion by 2 in the afternoon, those things aren't your age. They aren't your fate. They aren't something you have to accept as just the way things go now. Here where I live, those things aren't normal. They never were. And the difference, more often than not, starts not with what you eat for lunch or what supplements you buy, but with the very first thing that crosses your lips in the morning. Water is where the day begins. Make it count. It's not your age, my friend. It's what you've been putting in your glass. Tell me in the comments, what's the one thing your body struggles with most after 60? I read every single one, and your answer might shape what I share next. And stay close, because next time I'll share the way we prepare for a full night of deep sleep, something the modern world forgot somewhere between the invention of the television and the invention of the smartphone.